everybody, and welcome back to the channel. I'm Virginia, aka Orange Zeppelin, and I like to draw and paint barbarians and monsters, orcs, cool things like that. But I also have a side hobby. I like to make beautiful collages. So January of last year, I actually started a journal specifically for collaging. And I'm going to share that today along with the new version that I started this year. And then also, just for fun, because I do like journaling, I am going to show you what goes on in these two planners right here. So let's switch views and I will crack everything open. Alright, so like I said, this was started in January of 2025. And this is from the new one that I just got recently. This is the Traveler's Notebook Diary, the monthly version. And so, this is kind of just a repository for a lot of little stickers and various paper goods I come across, other collaging materials. I am the type of person that just has a terrible time putting my stickers on everything, because now it's permanent and I can't change it. But because I'm making a long form project that in the end the intention is that it's gonna look cool, not necessarily cohesive. It's just we're vibing here. That makes it less intimidating to put a cool sticker down. Which that right there, that's just an orange juice sticker. That's not a big deal. But then we get the little paint tube sticker. You might think, well, that's going to go somewhere cool. I got to give a special place for that, which I think our entry page of the journal is a very good place. Obviously, this is a self-portrait. I just butchered my hand. I swear I know how to draw hands. I'm not sure what was going on there. This is actually a sticker on top of a sticker. I thought that would be fun to put something on the easel. And then what I ended up doing in the previous year is I did my little year in review. This is a sticker for the anime shop I work at, which is actually where I got a lot of these. These were on some wall scrolls that we sell in the shop. This little guy right here, his name was Sunshine, and this is basically like, I call them my Sunshine trading cards. This little guy is no longer, well, okay, not little guy. That cat was probably like 25 pounds. He was the opposite of a little guy, but he was sweet friend. His owner has also since passed on. So this business card, it's become a very precious thing. So I wanted to memorialize him there. I ended up not really doing anything on this page. I do have a few blank spreads because I wasn't quite sure what I was going to do there. And early in this journal, you can see that every spread here, you've got like the full month. It's a little bit sparse in the beginning. So I did get this in early January last year. So I was kind of just putting some paper goods down that I had from the previous month. January, this is a little sparse. There's just tumbleweeds rolling by. There's crickets chirping. That's because this was a little bit of a bad start to the year. I had a very bad lung infection. Basically, I got sick and then I was fine. And then I really got sick and was objectively not fine. It was just a start that made me a little bit nervous. And at least we have the cute little bear guy to just make this less of a ghost town of a spread. February, I had fun with this. I just found this half of a Pokemon card on the ground somewhere, and it's like, there, I can do something with that. I did a lot of collaging with just like scraps of various products. If I had a interesting treat, I would stick it in here. If I go anywhere, like any of my favorite local haunts, I will note what day I did that. One thing I discovered, and you can see here, well, you can't see here because receipt paper does not necessarily work very well in here. I think it's the friction maybe against this thing specifically. It could be just that the receipt paper like any friction at all is going to wear out your receipt paper. So that is something to keep in mind. Though my McDonald's receipt seemed to survive perfectly fine. I was also noting if I went on a particularly long bike ride, I would make note of that. Let's see, April, I have a few things kind of hiding. That's a little sticky. There we go. If I bought something interesting, I'll put the receipt or the tracking information. And then this was also where I started using the foil from the top of whiskey bottles. This is from a bottle of Glenlivet 12. And you're going to see a lot of like anime stuff packaging because, again, I work at an anime shop. I get a lot of cool packaging. This also, we got some foil from Glenlivet Caribbean Reserve. I've got the shipping information from this Game Boy Advance SP that I bought. At this point, my spreads are still pretty simple. I think June is when things start to look a little more interesting. Here's another example of a receipt not necessarily surviving well, but it is also on the other side of something that is a bit shiny, so I think that's making it wear out. This is also, for better or for worse, documentation of when the Labubu craze occurred. I didn't even know what a Labubu was at the beginning of June. I don't use TikTok. If it's popular on TikTok, I have no idea. But I had people coming in asking, do you have Labubu? And I was like, there's no way that's the word you're trying to say. But no, that was just a warning of what was going to come for me. So we did eventually get Labubu products, both the legit Labubu and the very, very, very much knockoff Labubus. These were like little, it was just these little cheap mystery blind bags. So I bought one so I would have one out on display for people to see what it looked like. And then this was part of the packaging. I like the Labubu art that is in this like cartoony style. This is like knockoff of the actual Labubu art. But then the dolls just, they look like that. Not into the actual dolls. And then this was my Redbreast 12. That Jägermeister cold brew coffee, that was absolutely vile. I don't recommend that. I have that sticker on there just as a reminder that was not a good decision. This actually came off of some coffee that I bought. Delicious coffee, not cursed coffee. I do not recommend the Jägermeister and coffee combination. Here in July, where I live, we don't necessarily get our warmest weather in the summer. It's often just very dreary, a little bit depressing in the summertime. We have tourists come here and just be surprised that it is wet and foggy and miserable, so I just was wishing for a actual summery summertime. So I put some beautiful flowers and a beautiful beach. We're actually having some really beautiful weather today. Aside from how windy it is, it's a very, very nice warm day. This spread, this is where I think I was starting to figure out, all right, this is the visual language of my collage journal I want to do. I collaged in some paintbrushes. We have a new art store in our town, and so they did their soft opening on, it was August of last year, and my mom and I came in like the day they opened. We were counting down the days. That was very exciting to visit. They have lots of cool things. And then this is a quote I read. Kind of brilliant, honestly. I don't know where I'm going, but I know exactly how to get there. This is also a good spread. This is where I was thinking, okay, wait a minute. I should incorporate more drawings into my spreads. So I had just recently bought a little CRT TV. And so I did a sketch of that. I also did a sketch of my painting setup. We also got a new quilt store in my town. This 2025 was just like a windfall for new crafting stores. These aren't even the only 2 new crafting stores we got. We got a new yarn shop in our town just a couple months ago. And so I also did that little painting there. This is something that I did on a separate piece of paper. I don't know if you can hear my cat hollering. Oh my goodness. Separate piece of paper that I taped in to go under the flap. I was going to do something under here and then just didn't get around to it. All right, here we go. Now we are cooking. October, I wanted to go hard on the Halloween spooky month spread. This piece right here and this guy here, they were collaged out of Richard Scarry's best word book ever, which this is a well-loved book. It is kind of just exploding at the seams. So I figured that needs to have a new life as collage material. And then this right here, this also flaps open. And a little bit hard to see what's going on here, but my town is famous for what is known as the Witch's Paddle. And it started about 13 years ago as just a group of friends who went paddleboarding who decided we're going to go out and paddleboard in witch costumes. And then it just turned into a whole thing. Now it is an actual event where people will come from out of town to come watch the witches paddle. It's pretty fun. It's not even just witches anymore, because you'll have people walking around in pirate costumes, because in my town, everybody loves an excuse to put on a pirate costume. We've got a pirate, mermaid, and sea creature parade also. If we can dress like a pirate, we're going to do it. That is what we are known for. This is November. That is my birthday month. So this kind of just turned into an all of my favorite things. Got several Karami stickers. I had bought some makeup from Jolie Beauty in their Ozzy Osbourne collection. So I collaged a little bit of the materials I got from that. So I have a little flap that opens here, and then I had also taped a little bit of paper there so it shows through that cutout. I did quite a bit of painting in this month also. And this is Absol. That is my favorite Pokemon. I did not include the color orange on here anywhere. I love the color orange, as you can assume by the pseudonym, but purple was my favorite color when I was a little kid, and I still really like purple. For me, purple is like the cozy, comfy, happy color. Speaking of happiness, here is some festivity. I got jolly during the holiday season, so I did do some colored pencil. There's a little bit of colored pencil here, a little bit of watercolor. And all of these little presents, these are flaps that open up. So I put some stickers and other materials in there. This one kind of folds open a particular way. And I did do a little note. I got my annual peppermint mocha. Well, I'm normally either a cappuccino girly or just a black coffee girly. If it is the holidays, you got to get a peppermint mocha. You got to get whipped cream on there, marshmallows. High blood sugar is festive. And then I did a little bit of a little note on some of the things that I got for Christmas. And then I just put, on this page, I just wrote what my resolutions were, and we'll get back to that note when I show you the collage journal for this year. And then I have some pages in the back that are just some random stuff I glued in, and I didn't really have a theme here. It was just, I think this is neat, I want to put it somewhere. And then I ended up not finishing these last pages, but that is the journal for 2025. Let me show you what I have started for 2026. So at this point, I kind of know what I want the pages to look like, what sort of things I am going to include. So here's the opening spread. I did come across a bunch of old magazines in the garage that I got a lot of collage material off of. Like this is perfect. I want to channel doing more painting in the upcoming year. I got this great mountain lion. And then there is my self-portrait for this year. This was done on a separate piece of paper that I glued in. And what I decided to do, instead of having the year in review at the very start of the planner, I decided to have my goals, resolutions, and I'm going to do the recap in the back because I think that's a more logical progression. And I actually did find another Hello Kitty in front of an easel sticker, so I did the same thing here that I did in the previous one. I did repeat some concepts. And then some spreads that I've already done. This was just like my big cat spread. A few things I cut out from magazines, and then a few things I just printed out that I had found online. And then this is my vision board for 2026. This is the energy that I want to convey in the upcoming year. I was already thinking of doing a vision board for this upcoming year, and then I realized it would make a lot of sense just to do it in my collage journal. So a lot of things have been printed out from online. That actually wasn't taped down very well. I gotta fix that. And then some things are stickers. And then January, I don't have a lot in January yet. I'm going to take a gamble on that receipt paper and hope that doesn't get too worn out. But that is what I have so far in the 2026 edition. And so briefly, I do want to touch on two other planners that I use. They have very specific purposes. This one right here. This one is like the chores, work, art plans, and then this one is meal planning and scheduling workouts. So I like planners because I can delude myself into thinking that I have my life together. These are, oh wait, there we go. They are from Sterling Ink, which I used a Sterling Ink planner last year for my workouts. I like the paper quality a lot. It works really well for things like fountain pens. These are not going to be like tremendously aesthetic. It's going to look like a bomb went off. This is kind of how my brain works. It's just a frightening, frightening place to be. But these are my notes about the videos that I'm making right now. Basically, every week it's like, what are chores and work-related things I need to do? What are my art goals? And then these are, I call them my enrichment goals. Oh, there's a hair on there. Let me get that off. That's a little nasty. So, much like a tiger in a zoo enclosure, we require enrichment to not grow restless, but instead of hollowing out a pumpkin and filling it with raw meat and batting it around, I am making sure that I am taking the time to read, watch more movies, and that actually ties back into this planner right here. So in the back of the work planner, I've got my social media action plan. I talked about this in my previous video, but I do find the social media management part of being an artist to be kind of a hassle at times, so I have notes on what is important, what kind of things do I post, what are my general goals for this year, which many years ago on DeviantArt, I heard a really great analogy about, they were talking about DeviantArt specifically, but you could apply that to other social media sites. They compared it to a pasta machine and how much effort you put into making the dough and cranking the levers you feed the dough in. It corresponds to how much delicious pasta you get to eat. And DeviantArt is kind of like a pasta maker. You have to, one, actually make art, and two, you got to comment to other people. You got to engage with the community. And getting the comments and interactions, making new friends, that is like your celebratory spaghetti, which nowadays we're really, really, really battling the algorithm, and there's just a deluge of AI everywhere. But DeviantArt is surprisingly still pretty decent to post on. It's nothing like the glory days back in the mid to late 2000s, but I think the pasta analogy still works. So that's my notes there. And then this is like the health and wellness, fitness, fun time planner. But this one, I am actually using a different layout of planner. This is more like the time blocking one. And so what I do in the back, what I was alluding to earlier, is this is actually where I am going to make notes on the books I'm reading, movies I'm watching, just all the good things that I am feeding my brain. I've got some plans for basically how I'm going to note everything I read. I want to document my thoughts on everything also. And I do consider things like this relevant to wellness, because it's like not just your mental health, but your cognitive health. I think just thinking about what you're consuming media-wise, especially if you're an artist, because I get in weird ruts where I kind of just consume the exact same media. Well, I'll listen to the same 10 or so songs on repeat, and I need to actively stop myself from doing that. I think to keep my brain active, and especially as an artist, I just want to be feeding my brain new things, interesting things, inspiring things. Actually, before I pile all these up, I'll just show you one last thing, one last journal. Actually, hold on, where is it? Okay, so I started doing this in a previous journal. I made some notes on the various whiskeys I tried, and that has expanded into this little bad boy. There's not a lot going on in here yet, but I am just fascinated by the flavor variations of whiskey, and so I decided we're going to make a whole journal just talking about whiskey. There's a little bit of collaging elements, a little bit of paintings. This is like a do it over the course of many years thing. So yeah, I have plenty more pages to go. But that just about does it for all of my present journaling projects. If you haven't already checked it out, I did just do a video on this journal, this absolute brick of a journal. But thank you all for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.